Chapter 3. Highway Talk. Soon, we merged onto the N1 highway. It had been 30 minutes since we left Mom, yet not a single word had been spoken between us. The silence sat heavy in the car, broken only by the occasional hum of the engine and the sound of tires gliding over the asphalt. Finally, Uncle Simon decided to speak. Jayden, your mother told me you passed the BECE with flying colors. How did you do it? He asked, glancing at me briefly before returning his eyes to the road. I lowered my gaze to my shoes, a small smile tugging at my lips. I think it was by the grace of Jehovah, and the hard work of my teachers. They really put in a lot of effort during lessons. Uncle Simon nodded approvingly. That's a good answer. It's great that you acknowledge your teacher's efforts. That's a very good trait to have, my boy. I felt a swell of pride at his words. You know, he continued, his voice laced with warmth, I have 2 daughters within your age range. They also took the recent BECE, just like you. Wow, that's nice, sir, I replied politely. He smiled. I actually have 3 daughters. They're wonderful girls, very friendly. My eldest is Stephanie, the second is Julie, and my youngest, Juliana, but my wife and I mostly call her Anna. I wasn't sure what to say, so I simply offered, I hope we can be good friends. As he spoke about his daughters, I found myself wondering what they looked like. Since they were around my age, I imagined we might have a lot in common. So, Jayden, Uncle Simon said, his tone shifting to something more serious, have you chosen a senior high school yet? Yes, sir, I answered. I chose Lexton Senior High. Uncle Simon briefly took his eyes off the road, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Really? Yes, sir. But Mom said she couldn't afford the fees, so I might have to choose another school soon, I admitted, my voice tinged with disappointment. Uncle Simon was silent for a moment before speaking again, this time in a thoughtful tone. My eldest daughter, Stephanie, attends Lexton Senior High, he said. I'm planning to send Julie and Anna there too. If you're still interested, I could secure your admission before next Monday. Excitement surged through me like a bolt of lightning. I wanted to throw my arms around Uncle Simon in gratitude, but since he was driving, I held back. Thank you, Uncle. You don't know what this means to me, I said, barely able to contain my joy. He chuckled. If I may ask, why did you choose Lexton Senior High? I hesitated for a second before responding. I heard they have ultra-modern sports facilities, and they offer scholarships to students who perform well in their terminal exams. Uncle Simon nodded in approval. That's a good reason, boy. Before long, we arrived at a stunning house painted in soft pink. A beautifully landscaped garden surrounded the property, and a grand automated gate stood at the entrance. Uncle Simon pulled a small remote from his pocket, pressed a button, and the massive gate slowly slid open. He drove in smoothly and, with another press of the remote, the gate closed behind us. As we stepped out of the car, a graceful woman emerged from the house, her face lighting up as she saw us. Honey, welcome back. But why didn't you wake me before you left? She asked, her tone carrying a mix of curiosity and mild complaint. Uncle Simon chuckled apologetically. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you were sleeping so peacefully, I didn't want to disturb you. She playfully rolled her eyes before turning to me. And who is this young man? Uncle Simon placed a hand on my shoulder. This is Jayden, the son of a very good friend of mine. He'll be staying with us. The woman's expression shifted, her lips parting slightly as she processed his words. Honey. Chapter 4. Rocky Start. Property of David Mensa. Uncle Simon placed a gentle hand on his wife's shoulder, his voice calm yet firm. Sweetheart, please, let's go to our room and talk about this. We can't argue here, he said, trying to diffuse the tension. I shifted uncomfortably where I stood, suddenly feeling like an intruder in a place I hadn't even fully stepped into. I hadn't done anything wrong. In fact, I hadn't even spoken yet, but I could already sense I wasn't entirely welcome. After a brief silence, the lady exhaled sharply and nodded. Okay. Uncle Simon turned to a woman dressed in a neatly pressed maid's uniform. Araba, please take him to the hall. Araba smiled warmly. Hello, handsome. Please, come with me, she said in a welcoming tone. I followed her quietly, my footsteps careful, as though afraid to disturb the thick air of uncertainty that lingered behind me. You can have a seat here, Araba said, gesturing toward a plush sofa. Thank you, I replied, offering her a small smile in return. If you need anything, feel free to call me. My name is Araba, she added sweetly before disappearing into another part of the house. Just as I was settling in, a girl walked past me and gracefully sank into a sofa across from where I sat. She was breathtakingly beautiful, her skin smooth, her features delicate, and her presence commanding. Hey there, she said casually. What's your name? I hesitated for a moment, distracted. The TV remote rested on her lap, but what caught my attention was how her thighs gleamed under the soft lighting. Did she apply shea butter? I wondered absent-mindedly. Realizing I had been staring, I quickly shook the thought away. I'm Jayden. Jayden Banson, I answered. The girl smirked, tilting her head slightly. So, just like other boys, you can't look me in the face, but you can feast your eyes on my thighs. She playfully pointed the remote toward them, her voice laced with amusement. Heat rushed to my face. I had been caught. I'm sorry, I mumbled, feeling thoroughly embarrassed. Her teasing expression quickly vanished, replaced with a sharp, almost hostile look. Listen, I don't know who you are, but I don't want you to be the reason my parents start fighting. If you know what's good for you, stay out of trouble, she warned. Before I could even respond, a cheerful voice interrupted. Hi, I'm Julie. With a sudden thump, another girl plopped down beside me. She was just as pretty as the first, but in a softer, more delicate way. Dimples adorned her smile, just like mine. Stephanie, I haven't seen this handsome friend of yours before, Julie said, turning to her sister. Friend? Stephanie scoffed. I just met him. He came with Dad. Oh, oops. Sorry, Julie said, looking slightly embarrassed. It's okay, I assured her, extending my hand. I'm Jayden. Nice to meet you, Julie. Her smile returned as she shook my hand. Nice to meet you too, Jayden. And my oh my, her palm was unbelievably soft, like silk. Just then, Uncle Simon and his wife emerged from their room. Girls, how are you doing? Uncle Simon asked, his voice warm. We're fine, Dad, they responded in unison. Uncle Simon gestured toward me. This here is Jayden Banson. He's going to be staying with us, and I hope you girls find his presence here useful. Stephanie simply nodded. Okay, Dad. Julie, on the other hand, smiled. Sure. Uncle Simon then turned his attention to me. Jayden, can I have a word with you outside? Yes, sir, I said, immediately standing up and following him. Outside, the evening air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers from the garden. Uncle Simon turned to face me, his expression serious but kind. I'll be leaving for a business trip tonight. And I won't be back for 2 weeks, he began. Now that you're here, I want you to help keep the family going. I know you noticed that my wife wasn't exactly pleased with your unannounced arrival, but trust me, she's a kind woman. I should have handled things better on my part, but don't worry, everything will be fine. I nodded, understanding the weight of what he was saying. I understand, sir. As we spoke, Araba approached us. Araba, Uncle Simon said, please take Jayden to the boys' quarters. He'll be staying here from now on. Yes, sir, she responded with a slight bow before turning to me with a warm smile. Come, Jayden, let me show you your new room. As I followed her, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much bigger than I had anticipated.